that. I'm not very combative on
True,
stage.
true.
You know, I'm kind of like I'm a fucking jolly guy. You guys are like me. Then off stage, I'm like, terrorist. You know, and just shouting.
Today, we talk about...
Dude, well, so you live with your mom now, right?
Yes.
And now I want the audience to know, despite your over 30 face, you're 24, right? 25. Still, it makes sense that you live with your parents still, but your face looks like you shouldn't. Because
It's very true. Yeah, because you do look older
Real
than
old
both
looking.
of us.
Yeah, dude. And that's with a hat on. Bald as fuck.
Dude, I lived with my parents till I was...
You were in med school.
28?
Yeah, you were in med school.
Also, your parents' house was so big, different wings. Was it really living with your parents?
Actually, they did move out, so I got to stay there by myself.
How
So
big
that
was your
kinda
house?
cool. I mean, average suburb house like here. But anyway, this is about Ethan. Where are you living? Downtown?
Aurora.
Okay,
Colorado.
I don't know shit
It's
about
You know how, it's so funny you don't get what money is to poor people like me and Ethan. Living down, you know how expensive it is to live in downtown Denver? I know you live in Midtown in a high rise that looks like you have to sell coke to get to.
You could see the Empire State Building,
Dude, when I see your video,
and not have to look up at it.
Dude, motherfucker's making eye contact with the needle. It's like, dude, I get so bad when I see pictures of you. When I see like the videos and I just see the skyline, I'm just like, this motherfucker.
That's why I got
morning.
it. That's
It's
why
so,
I paid
dude,
the premium, because I wanted.
It's so dumb.
That's what I wanted.
When we turn this off, will you tell me how much it is a month?
Yeah, for sure.
Because in my brain, $1 million is that that's how much it has to be a month.
A month,
$1 million.
nah. Yeah, I got.
It's so beautiful,
I honestly think I got it for a steal, but it's
I'm
all
sure it
relative,
is, but
right?
it's still probably
But I'm
pretty
glad you brought up the poor thing, because I know no one wants to hear me talk about this, but I did grow up poor, and that was one of my drivers to not want to be poor anymore. Was I remember the smell of garage sales and the clothes from them, and my parents constantly going to get from. I'm like, I don't want this.
I grew up in a garage.
Nice. But it wasn't just that.
Born in one too. He survived the abortion.
It was also and I'm trying to turn this into a bit. I don't know how yet, but it's like I also remember sitting on the floor one night. It felt like a week with the family to like cut up fucking rebate coupons and mail them in and shit. I was just to save like what, $50.
What did your parents do when you were growing up?
Well, they were in school still, so like they were making nothing. You know?
How long when they got out of school? What'd they do?
They're both engineers now for GE.
So your life of poverty ended shortly there.
Oh, for sure. Right. But I mean, they were
lifelong, pal. I'm in this for. I'm poor for life.
No, I know and it's obviously different. I'm not trying to compare. I'm just saying, like I remember.
I'm not trying to take. That's the real motivator.
Yeah.
For I think most people, and like something that like I don't think it's talked about enough is like the immigrant experience in America. You guys are more the real Americans because you're taking these 100%. You guys are taking.
I agree.
These, yeah,
I
you're
agree.
taking real opportunities. I have a sense of entitlement. Like I'm supposed to be rich. Dude, I remember up until I turned 30, I just assumed I'd be a millionaire by the time I was 30. And then I was like 31. I was like, hold on, dude. Why does that shit say negative? You know, I thought I was supposed to be rich. But like you guys, and I have a handful of friends that are, from other countries, Canada, Middle East, anywhere. And they all come and work harder. And they're almost blown away at how hard Native Americans... people born in America, people like a white folk.
Native.
When I don't call, what's commonly referred to as Native Americans, I call it indigenous Americans.
Sure,
because they were here first. Like,
got it.
They should actually just be called indigenous people because they were here before the term America existed. But
That's fair.
I'm woke as fuck. Anyways, but so like that memory you have is like what you also probably don't realize is that while your parents were going through school, they were also probably fucking shit on a regular basis, so the struggle was even harder.
Oh, for sure.
And then that was their motivator of like just building a good life for little you, and then to see what you've done with it. Probably, you know where that laugh comes from? Real conversation with his parents about what he's done with their hard work. I'm sure they're very proud of you. I mean,
they're proud of the medicine, not this.
How much do they hate this?
Oh, dude, they can't wait for me to stop.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they criticize it? Are they like it's getting in the way of your medicine?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
No, they're. My mom is definitely happy that I mean, she came around. She's like, "All right, at least he finished the fucking." It's. I could have. I've met like really good comics too. Just the one who got into medical school, but then chose to go into comedy instead.
Who?
Do you know Usama Siddiqui? Does that name sound familiar? No.
You know Michelle Wolf. I'm pretty sure she graduated med school and then became a stockbroker on Wall Street.
Oh, really?
And then became maybe the up and coming greatest female comic of all time.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
because you need that kind of brain. I've realized this. You need a certain IQ.
And she runs marathons too, doesn't she?
I mean, not everyone's perfect. The women.
Do you run?
Not really.
Yeah, you just weightlift, right?
I want to say back on you
And
because it
yoga.
is something that I find motivating that I try to keep in mind. I mean, a mutual friend of our, like Aline's kind of the same thing. Like her parents kind of went through like a lot of, like hardships being immigrants in Canada. And then that's kind of like what motivates her.
I
and
forget
like,
she's from Canada all
right?
the time.
I didn't know that till right now.
Real Canadian, ill. Yeah. But
The French kind, too.
But so the
No, that
reason I
makes sense.
ask you about what your parents think about kind of your extracurricular activities, because her parents are always kind of like, hey, this stand-up thing, is it getting in the way of this other
Oh,
shit?
because she's still in school.
Yeah. So like, I wonder if I kind of would assume it was the same thing for your experience where like, it's another thing I noticed with people from, that kind of immigrate here, this idea of like leisurely and having a happy life.
they have no
It's
idea.
like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Are you, but I want to do what makes you happy. No, do what feeds your family,
Right,
you
right.
idiot, you know?
I mean, it's just like a hunter-gatherer mentality going into the Industrial Revolution. It's like it's a totally different
Yeah.
view of life and how to live and how to fucking approach it. We're entering the media era. It's like without this following thing, like what are you fucking doing?
Yeah. You're not wrong, man.
You know?
So your mom's come around to this, but your dad still hates it.
No. My dad is more around to it than my mom, but even my mom has started to come around to it too. Like
Dude,
they're like, all right. You know.
You got to do a podcast with Pops.
yeah, I was going to ask. when
Oh,
you're
my
gonna have
dad
them
is
on.
hilarious.
Dude, I believe it, man.
Yeah, I'll show you some videos.
I believe you 100% because some of the funniest people I've met in my entire life are Middle Eastern dads. Dude, they get humor in a whole nother way. Dude, and I have a real theory about that. Like, humor comes from pain.
Sure.
And there's no greater pain than what most of the Middle East has gone through for the past 20 years. I mean,
Dude, my dad's
especially Iran. You guys were the future of society until we got involved. We were like, fuck all that noise. We're going to say a Ayatollah guy here.
You're democratically elected Shah. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I mean, but ironically, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here. I mean, the whole reason he came
Yeah,
here is
it just
because
keeps
of that.
getting worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
But you may-
you couldn't be here. That could be a life I got to live.
But no, it's funny you say that because my dad, I can't imagine the kind of life that he's gone through and he's still going through.
Yeah.
He keeps a smile on his face. And the funniest part about it is the English translation of his name is Patience.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like crazy.
That's awesome.
This
What's
is
his
like
name?
the most perfect name. Saber is it's
I love that
I
the
mean,
translation is patience, but it's also fucking badass, dude.
but it's pronounced
Dude, does your
Saber,
dad
but it's
Okay.
spelled Saber,
Okay.
and everyone says Sabers.
Isn't that the joke from The Office?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So your dad's name is Curvy Sword.
not the printer. Yeah.
I mean, I think that makes, and also like when you think about like the things that like got me to be funny was like, dude, I remember being a kid, and it's kind of like a joke I want to work on about like, parents not being the one that affect how you grow up to be. The kids you grow up with have the effect. And I remember in third grade, all my friends one day decided they didn't like me, and they started calling me Blimp. And whenever they would see me, they would go. Like I had to learn how to be funny,
Right,
because I was a gross little kid, So like you have these things that like, and you learn like that's the way when you're like fucking sweaty trying to talk to a girl, but then you make her laugh once. You're kind of like, all right, well maybe I don't need abs.
Yeah, it's
if
like
I
your
can just,
first open
hone
mic.
this, yeah, kind of,
But it
So,
was
like,
weird.
those
I
are
was
the things that
I was
build
talking to
you.
him about that because I figured he would have it just as bad, quote unquote. But he was like, "Nah, man."
I know, like you look at his face and you're like, how are rocks not thrown at you?
I mean, I made fun of her having red hair.
Yeah. You're also not very articulate with your life at all. You're not like I've done the same thing where I'm like, hey, tell me about your life. He's like, no, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
but
angry.
I mean, we fleshed it out last time, and from
Well,
what
also, I went to a smaller school than you guys did. I'm assuming.
I don't know that
How many
that
people
makes
did you graduate
that
with?
much of a difference. Though.
Well, it wasn't really clicky or anything like
Well,
that.
because there wasn't enough people to be
Yeah.
multiple clicks. All
okay.
7 seniors had to be best
like,
friends.
like everybody, like there were groups, obviously.
Yeah, but
but it wasn't nobody got like genuinely bullied a lot.
Right.
You know what
But
I mean?
but we're not just talking about necessarily being
Yeah.
bullied. I mean, I could go through a history of heartbreak of like why I ended up trying to be funny and why this is so important to me. You have to have some of that in there. I mean, and I would assume a lot of it with you is like, I'm just assuming, and tell me if I'm wrong, but like your parents were probably pretty hard on you to go through this medical school
of course.
thing, and like
Yeah.
there wasn't time for fun. So like you,
there was time for fun. I played Xbox. I played
right,
sports.
but like if
But
you,
the focus
if you
was
tried to
always-
do comedy in your 20s when you're going to school, they'd be like, go fuck yourself and get to those books.
well, no,
you know?
if so, I got into medical school in high school. And it was like a direct track from, okay, you got into medical school. Your stipulation is maintain a 3.4, which is a joke. And then
For you, relax.
well, compared to
for your audience, yeah. I mean, we're not all fucking.
well, I just mean comparatively to the traditional track of getting into med school. You got to have that 4.0. You got to have those extracurriculars.
so
you got to have the MCATs
before even getting your bachelor's.
Right. I got it in high school. I got it before my high school diploma. So
Your bachelor's?
No, my getting into medical school. Yeah. So. And all they require of you is a 3.4. That's it.
I
no
get it.
MCATs.
Relax.
No, nothing. I'm just saying. So I say all
No
that.
SAT?
I had to take the SAT, but I didn't have to take the MCAT, which is much harder. Yeah. And I say all that to say, if I had started comedy then, they probably wouldn't have cared because it's like, all right, at least he's like on the path.
Right.
Like he's already in.
But they would do that same thing. It was like, hey, you're doing this every night.
Oh, if I
and
wasn't
it's
doing
getting
well in
way.
school, yeah. Which I wasn't, but that was because I just wasn't studying and playing video games. If it was comedy instead.
I do love where you're like, no, we had fun. I had an Xbox.
Yeah.
But like the idea of like, no, like my parents would go to sleep and I'd play an hour of Call of Duty. Like it was fun. It was a good life. It was a good life. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't want to make
So what I would say is like, so for me at least, like the desire to be funny came from like feeling invaluable elsewhere, where I think I think it probably like shows on like the type of funny we try to be. Like you try to like be silly and like just how you're a guy that's like, let's just have some fucking fun, where I'm like trying to be like really witty and clever to impress people so they don't realize how dumb I am.
So let me challenge that. You want to be witty and clever, which is totally fine. But your witty and clever is always
racist.
Partially under that umbrella.
I mean, only in conversation, not upstate.
But no, that's even racism. It's under this umbrella of like a jab. You're always like jabbing.
Very competitive.
It's never. It's because like I would. Like I said it at your roast thing. It's like I can't roast. Like I don't have it in me to roast. I do. I know. That's my point. Like that's your humor, and if you're funny, it's going to work regardless.
But also
right?
that for me that came from growing up with black friends. Like all we did was make fun of each other.
But again, yeah, okay.
That's just kind of like, and like even like all my groups growing up, like that's how you knew that you were good with the group if we were ragging.
If you were ragging, yeah.
But like if all of a sudden everyone was being cool to you, like, and this is more in high school and all that, where like who could tell you you're being an idiot more than your friends? Because people that aren't your friends aren't they're gonna let you keep being an idiot.
Right.
So like that's kind of where it comes from.
That makes sense. You know? But then. I don't know. I'm very well aware of that myself, and I'll do that for my other friends. Not even in joke format, just like, bro, we got to fucking fix some shit, right?
Right.
But when I'm interacting with strangers or comedians or whatever, like I don't have it in me to like jab.
I only do it with people I like.
You know,
It's
I mean,
funny.
not that I don't do it. I've obviously done it to you. All
Such an easy target. Such an easy target. I mean, how could you not?
But this is because it's come at an established. Well, I guess, yeah. I don't know.
My thing is like also
he was
like,
just about to say he respects me more than you. I think that's what he was about to say.
but he stopped himself because he
Because he
goes,
didn't
you know
wanna
what, I
offend
can't
you.
lie.
He didn't want to hurt your
I
feelings.
can't lie. No, listen. I wouldn't blame you for respecting him more than me. You don't know me. You know the type of friend I can be.
Interesting.
You know why he cried? Everything he cried about on his going away party, I set up. Aline set up. I was with her. We talked about it. And I was like, no, yeah, that's a good idea.
good
You should
idea.
do that. So like,
Make sure you don't invite Sadr though. Yeah.
I didn't know you were in town. You're supposed to tell me when you got in town.
I
is what we
did. I
talked-
told
No,
you.
you told me 2 weeks ago you'll be in at a
See?
certain time, but you didn't tell me, hey, I'm back.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
whatever.
Also, I'm pretty sure that day, if we check the record, you posted about being in New York. I'm pretty sure you posted that Broadway comedy club picture that same day.
Probably.
So I was like, oh, he just did an open mic at Broadway. I really do hate him.
That wasn't an open mic. That was a performance for 200 people.
Even worse.
Nice. No, that was my quote audition for the for that bringer
Oh, okay.
thing that they do. It's all just like a big.
That's how
money.
you know you're moving up the ranks there. You're doing bringer show.
No, that's the thing.
Kinda,
It's-
though.
well, it was more for the tape because it is a nice tape, and
Oh,
also
nice. Did you get it yet?
yeah,
I wanna see it.
That's the YouTube. Oh, you just saw the
I
photo.
only saw the Instagram.
Got it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the. Is it up on YouTube?
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
It's I don't. Is it my best set to date? Might be just because the laughs are the biggest because the room is the biggest.
And it's a hot room.
Yeah.
They're there to have fun.
Right.
But so the point I was making it before you rudely interrupted me, as if this was your show.
Nah, this is Ethan's show.
That's true. Which we have not let
We'll
him
miss
talk
you,
about.
Ethan.
We'll miss you. Hush up now. But like your style of being funny, it does feel like it comes from kind of like a suppression of being able to let loose.
There's definitely that.
Silly, kind of jovial, lighthearted.
But it's also
you know?
just the pure. I want everyone to like me.
Yeah, I want everyone like me too, but in a different manner.
Oh, so you're like the Larry David, like
But
I'm gonna
also,
be.
that's how I am when we're like joking around on stage. I'm not like that. I'm not very combative on stage.
True.
You know? I'm kind of like I'm a fucking jolly guy. You guys will like me. Then off stage, I'm like terrorist. You know, and just shouting
Oh
things at
man.
them.